Australia's housing crisis. It's Stefan here from Gardo Financial, and let's have a discussion about Australia's housing crisis. A couple of years ago, I bought a watch for 10,000 bazookas. Now, my mum called me up a couple of months after and said that the university debt, or for the Americans, a college tuition debt, college loans, the interest rate has gone up to 7%. And I thought, I never really thought about this. But here I am with a $10,000 watch, but I've got all this debt hanging over my head. So I said, let me sell the watch and pay off the debt. And I sold the watch for probably half. So I bought it for 10 or something like that. And I sold it for probably 5, something like that, a little bit of XYZ in the middle. And I took that $5,000 with some other money that I sold some other things, and I paid off my university HECS debt. You might be saying, a housing crisis and a watch, what do they have in common? Well, the first thing is they have nothing in common, but the second thing is the lesson of today's story is something called cutting our cloth accordingly. So I couldn't afford the watch, so I didn't afford it. Now, does that hurt my ego? Do people my friends and family, do they laugh at me and say, oh my God, you lost money, you're a loser, you bought some luxury goods and you couldn't afford it, you're a loser. So we take the loser, medal, but ultimately, the point of today's video is that if I can't afford something, I don't afford it. And so right now in Australia, we have a housing crisis in terms of the price of a house versus people's incomes, what they earn month to month, year to year. And the lesson here today is if we can't afford it, we don't afford it. We give up on the dream of owning the watch, or we give up on the dream of owning a house in a particular manner. And what's the manner? Is that, if I want to buy a 4-bedroom house, maybe I give up on the dream of a 4-bedroom house and maybe I buy a 3-bedroom, or maybe it's a 2-bedroom, or maybe it's not a house, maybe it's a townhouse, or maybe it's not a townhouse, maybe it's an apartment. Or maybe if it's not an apartment, maybe it's a house in another city. Or maybe it's a house 3 hours away. And all these things that I'm saying, people are going to say, oh my God, who wants to live 3 hours away? Well, I did it when I was growing up. I lived 2 hours away from my workplace. And we traveled to work 2 hours. Now, is it fun? No. Is it cool? No. But you get your own independence, you're out of home, etc., etc. So there are ways in Australia to buy houses, but it may just have to be an alteration of the dream. And in the case of the watch example, I may not be able to buy the watch today. I may not be able to buy it tomorrow, but maybe in 10 years, I've saved up enough money, invest my money, and it's gold Rolex time. But for now, we have to adjust the dream. And so Australia is going through a house crisis, but it's not impossible for young people. It just requires the cutting of the cloth, an age-old, time-tested example. Cut our cloth accordingly. If we can't afford something, we don't afford it. We switch the dreams a little bit, we make some alterations, we figure something out. And again, what are our options? Number one, we rent in where we want to live and we invest where we can afford it. So I rent in Melbourne and I had an investment in another city. And so that's called rent vesting. What's another way? Well, we get together with people. Maybe it's not friends and family because we don't want to, get people together, but maybe there's a group of property investors and we pool our money together and we say we're going to buy, some big houses in the city. Maybe it's, we buy a house in our city, but it's 2 to 3 hours away from the CBD. Again, you live here for 2 days a week, you live there for 3 days a week. Again, we're chopping it up in different strategies. Maybe we give up on the house thing and it's an apartment. Again, apartments might not grow, but it's a step on the property ladder. So there's many ways to chop it up. But again, today's point of the video is, we have to cut our cloth accordingly because there's no point, putting our heads, in the sand as far as having $50 million of mortgage debt hanging on our head. And in case of the debt of the HECS or the watch example, couldn't afford it, didn't afford it, got rid of it, made some adjustments. That's how the game goes. So it's Stefan here from Gardo Financial. Please let me know what you think of today's video regarding the housing crises. And please click like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.